Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonictalk episode, what is it? 722, recording today live, 4 o'clock UK time, streaming via Twitch, via YouTube, via, where else are we going? I can't remember now. Some other places. YouTube, Twitch, and no, that's it. I forget. This is a music technology podcast. So why would I know anything about streaming technology? Well, in fact, I have to, because obviously we're doing quite a lot of this. And one of the new things that we're bringing in, which I think I'll just throw up, if you've got any questions for the panel, you just need to leave a comment beginning with 2 capital Qs, and we'll hopefully pick that up in our slightly clunky but getting better comment question picking up system, IT system. So anyway, please do join us, and we'd be happy to have you. Also, want to say, think about joining our Patreon. We've got a ton of stuff going on the Patreon at the moment. I've really picked it up since the shows. I know it went a bit lax. We're thinking of introducing another tier, which we'll talk about some other time. But we've also got some other things coming up. In fact, I should mention, we've got this exclusive F9 audio kick set of samples. There's kick bodies and kick transients, which you can mix together with reverb and blend and whatnot. And that's because we've just done an interview with James Wilshire, and this is one of the Patreon freebies that will be going to our upper tier members. So please consider joining us on Patreon. In fact, if you do it before the end of the show, I've also updated the Patreon supporters, so it's now scrolling credits. I'm hoping that's going to work, because I'm going to look like a right chump if it doesn't. So yeah, if you're in quick, you'll be there, because it's a live feed, so it will actually work. Anyway, enough of the housekeeping and all that business. Let's get on to other matters. Let's say hello to our guests. We'll start off actually with Mr. Robin Vincent of Molten Modular. How are you, Robin? You're looking well?
Hello.
If a little heated. Is it hot where you are?
It is. Any Instagram followers will be pleased to know that I'm no longer naked. I'll just
I can tell, at least from the waist up.
Yes, it's nice. It's warm. I'm feeling gooey. So yeah, I'm ready to talk about your stuff.
What's been going on in your world? Have you got what reviews have you got on your excellent YouTube channel? Have you been doing some? I noticed a couple of posts where you were cursing the unavailability of the right kind of MIDI DIN to stereo mini jack adapter. So I'm assuming you got something cooking.
Yeah, well, I was on a hiding to nowhere because I got a Moog Mavis kind of later than everybody else. So I thought, right, now is the time. I'm going to do it. I'm going to compare it with a bunch of other little desktop synths. And I spent a whole morning trying to get MIDI to work before I unpacked the Mavis and realized it doesn't have any MIDI. But I did a lovely little jam with this new MIDI cake arpeggiator thing that I was sent, which was fun. So I had a fun time with it and got like 5 minutes of bleepy bloopy noises out of everything else. But ultimately, it sort of failed to do anything with the Mavis. But I've done a little bit on it this morning, so I feel like I'm moving in the right direction now.
It's fun, isn't it? I must admit, I was expecting to be somewhat disappointed, just because it doesn't feel like full Moog, because, when you've done the grandmother and the matriarch, you kind of thought, wow, those were so substantial. But actually, it's got a nice vibe about it. I mean, yeah, you're still getting a bit of a premium. Let me just check. Oh, sorry, Matt is saying he can't see everybody, so I'm just going to make sure I've got, here we go. I'll get him sorted out. Excuse me a second. What did you think about that, Robin? Did you think it's cool?
Yes, I mean it's evidently cool because many people are telling me so. So I'm trying my best to put that to one side and actually compare it to some similar desktop synths. And on first impressions, it's not got a whole lot going for it. But I'm going to give it some time and hopefully create something fantastic within its context. But on its own, it's a little bit lacking compared to Create Audio or Dreadbox or those sorts of players. Yeah. So, but at the same time, it's got Moog stamped on it, so that always gives it a thing.
It definitely does. Anyway, well, thanks for that brief bit of insight. We've also got Mr. Matt Hodson, aka Maths. That's at Maths. As an educator, he's a live performer, and been doing some videos for us at Sonic as well. More of those on the way at some point in the near future. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. I'm glad it's not as hot today, so I'm with you guys on that one because I don't fare very well in this heat or being in the studio. I don't know about you, but I tend to try and do all my writing and studio work over autumn and Christmas and spend this time of year trying to be outside and be a bit more active, playing live and that kind of things. Or at least that's what I
Wise.
try and do
What a
as
wise
much.
man you are. That seems like an eminently sensible thing to do compared to what the rest of us, or certainly
Yeah,
myself, is
doesn't
doing.
always
Although I
work
am
out
at
like that.
home. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. But yeah, so have you got any more gigs coming up? Because you did that great rig rundown, which went really well. People seem to respond
Yeah.
really well to that.
Yeah, thanks for that. That was really, really interesting to do. And actually watching it back, you learn stuff about yourself, don't you? When you see yourself play live or you hear yourself play live, it kind of clicks into place. Like, oh yeah, I think I know what my music's about now. You know, when you go out and perform live, you get a totally different perspective than when you're just making stuff in the studio, or even when you just put stuff out online. Just connecting with an audience and seeing them connect with it or not connect with it, and learning from that and taking that back to the studio is really important. I started off making really quite a lot of ambient music when I started playing out live, and I soon realized that that wasn't really going down well in a live scenario. And I went back to the studio and essentially thought, right, okay, I need to grab people's attention, and it worked its way back into the way that I produce music. So yeah, I recommend it to anyone who's making music. If you can, even if you're playing in a local coffee shop or a pub or an open mic, get yourself down there and play some of your tunes out if you can, and it will give you a completely different perspective on your music for sure.
Excellent. Again, more wise words. I can't believe the knowledge and wisdom coming from our panel today. Awesome. Paulie, no pressure on you then. So nice to see you again, Paulie, Alex Bow. Oh,
I
I've
was
got a jingle
enjoying
for you.
the chat. Oh,
Oh, yeah,
yes.
the chat. I put that in as a reminder to myself that that was the name of your new YouTube channel. So obviously,
Yeah.
you know, that's why it's there. How are you?
Yeah, that's been going well this week, actually. I've done my script, I've filmed most of the video, so I've just got to probably put it together over the weekend and job done, basically. I'll have my first episode. But yeah,
Hey.
I
Nice.
enjoyed the chat about performing live, because it is a very different kind of paradigm to studio work. You know, I mean, I played live with my band around the pubs and clubs of Birmingham for like probably about 5, 6, 7 years, and it was a very interesting experience, I've got to say. And you can see which tracks the audience really connect with, you know, and which ones they're like, oh, I'm going to go out for a fag break now that this track's on. But yeah, actually, it's the act was called, quite unusual name, Elmo Sex Whistle. So if you want to hear some chaotic live industrial music, go and check out my old band. I think Wagyu's heard it and likes it. But yeah, I've had a good
I've heard
week.
the name, definitely.
My baby's come back home from the guitar shop.
Oh, nice.
So my little Esquire's come back home with some new brass saddles.
That
So I'm
does
very,
look
very
nice.
happy that she's
Highly
home
polished.
safe. Yes.
Do you find with those
Yeah.
saddles that do you find a trick that I used to do with the Telecasters? Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
With those saddles, because I've got a Tele, and what I tend to do with those three saddles, I tend to bend them slightly to one side to get the intonation right, because you know the strings come over. One saddle is for two strings, isn't it? So
It is.
I tend to bend them to get them right. I don't know if you've ever had that problem, but it's something I do.
Yeah. I went and bought some Wilkinsons, which I think have some kind of compensation built into them, so you can wiggle them a
Right.
bit more.
Wicked.
But the guitar shop did all of that for me. Basically, they got it sounding bang on. So I just have to not mess it up now when I restring her, you know, in a few months' time.
Yeah, there's always that. Yeah, I was curious what you're saying about live. I mean, because the thing is, obviously, if you test your stuff out live, what
Yeah.
people want from music live is not necessarily what they want from listening and what they might buy. I just wonder if there's anyone's got any thoughts about the difference there. I mean, we could all figure that out, then we'd probably might be making a living out of music one day. Who knows? But
Yeah.
I guess people go to shows, don't they, for entertainment? They want that. I'm here at a gig, entertain me, do something more than it being a passive experience, I suppose. They want to be part of it and connect with it, which usually means like entertain me, that kind of thing. I guess, is that why we go to gigs?
Yeah.
I don't know anymore.
My bassist entertained people on his own. My bassist has such the largest afro in the world that I've seen. So him just standing there, playing bass and mushing about was entertainment on its own, really.
Nice. Well, I suppose we could get on with some topics. We do have topics, obviously. There is also, like I say, we will be introducing the concept of questions. If you've got any questions for the panelists, put them in the comments. Started with QQ in the live stream, and we'll try and get around to it. Incidentally, if you use Twitter, sort of between shows, something comes up. If you do a tweet to @Sonicstate and then QQ, that'll pick up as well. In fact, I have a question that came in via that very method. So anyway, let's take a look. This is kind of exciting. What am I looking for? The right button. That's it. Here we go. It's this one. Yeah, this is the mega. It's a flyby of the massive. They say, or it's the largest warehouse in Europe. This is the Thomann thing. I just had no idea of the scale of this. This is like Amazon kind of technology. There's loads of interesting facts and figures to this, but I just thought, if you wondered why, Thomann seem to have everything and they can do it at affordable price, and this isn't a plug or anything. This was just I was genuinely shocked at the scale of what's going on here, and this is somebody flying a racing drone around it, and I just thought, crikey, now I understand why they've kind of effectively kind of taken a lot of business from a lot of places, because they're just so efficient. It's astonishing. Robin, I suppose we should come to you. I know that Gear News are kind of linked to Thomann, and Thomann often they do support quite a lot of websites just for keeping them up. They're quite hands off though, so I suppose I should give that caveat. But have you actually been to the warehouse and seen that? Because it's surprised. I'd love to go.
I've been to Thomann a couple of times, but I haven't actually been inside the warehouse. But it's horrifying somehow. I mean, having worked in London music shops back in the day, just the scale, how much are we spending on gear? It just seems incredible. I mean, we used to fill an entire transit from Turnkey in the late 90s for our, mailing stuff out on one day, and we thought we were doing well. I mean, I remember we went from Turnkey over to Thomann to sell them the idea on the Carillon audio system, the Carillon computer we were making. And it was just mind-boggling back then. And this is 25 years ago. And it was huge then. And we at Turnkey thought we were the biggest shop in Europe. And it's just phenomenal. But I mean, more recently, their huge warehouse is extraordinary. The amount of stuff they've got is amazing. And it's almost to the scale that there's no question of competing. You just have to do your own thing. I don't think Thomann negates any of the other shops that are out there. They just all have to do their own thing in their own way. That's all that means.
Yeah, I suppose so. I guess when you buy modular stuff, Matt, it's not always from such mega. I mean, there are some amazing statistics in here. I'm going to just throw a few about just because I can. It's basically it's 28 minutes to fulfill an order, 1 million cubic meters in volume on 120,000 square meters of floor space. This is in Treppendorf in Germany,
Wow.
which is sort of in the middle. It's an astonishing thing. It does, I mean, I imagine if I was going to start a music store, I might look at that and just go, yeah, no, I'm not going to bother. There's no point.
Well, it's good to see that they are employing so many people as well, and it's not all automated robots yet, that kind of thing. So that's good. And it's difficult out there right now for sellers. There's, I try and support a lot of the UK sellers, I must admit, when I'm buying this stuff. And sadly, one closed recently, or is closing down, Matek Modular. Hey, Matt. And yeah, sadly, I mean, it's just unfortunate that he's having to close down. He's got a sale coming on. Please do go there and support him as he winds that down. But it's tough out there right now. It's really tough out there, and not to mention a lot of the places they can't get the components for some of the modules, so they've got back orders, and people are starting to cancel them. I mean, I've just received this, which is the Quadrax by Intelligel, and I was very lucky to get this because of the components that they still can't get. This came out on a very sort of low quantity batch, and I know some people have put in orders. I ordered this about a year ago.
Wow,
and it's just come. And so I know some people are cancelling these orders. So the sellers have had that money in the bank, which has been good for them, and the kind of secured sales. But now people are sort of cancelling them and going, well, look, I've been waiting a year now. I don't want that module anymore. I don't know, I need to move house, or I need to buy a car now, so I need that money back and that kind of thing. So I think that's hitting them quite a lot. This warehouse is in Germany, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, Treppendorf.
This one that we've seen here, yeah. So
I think it's the only one. Right? I think it's the only one.
How is it these days? Has anyone got any experience with buying stuff from the EU and getting it shipped to the UK? Because I've done it once or twice, and I got stung quite big on import duties fees now, or taxes or something like that. Have you experienced that, anyone?
I haven't had
I've had various experience with it. I know I bought the pizza from Bastl recently, and that was a disaster of paperwork and taxes and custom things. But I've had other things from Thomann through with no bother at all. So I don't know, it seems to be quite random.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. Paulie, I mean, it's always nice to support the little guys, but as we know, with the rise of Amazon, convenience is king. When it's particularly if it's an impulse buy, which with music you sort of have. If you think about it too long, and then you give yourself another cooling off period, you're never going to buy anything because you wouldn't be allowed for various reasons.
Yeah, all those kind of late night drunken purchases. Oh, I need a new Visa mount for my keyboard stand or something. I really need another desktop synth or something like that. But I have purchased from Thomann in the past, but not recently. I have tried to support UK businesses. I'm kind of scared of being bit by that EU stuff, the kind of import stuff. So I've been buying most of my stuff from like Andertons or Juno.co.uk at the moment. But yeah, it's I guess it's a tricky time with the component shortage, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, we do have a story about that a little bit later on as well. So we will.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose similarly in the US. I mean, I imagine Sweetwater have got a similar kind of facility or several facilities and do all of that kind of stuff. And in fact, I'm sure, I think it was Adorama, who are kind of little known, or BH Photo. They've got these amazing kind of conveyor belt picking systems, and it seems like that's the way it's going. And I was looking at that, I was thinking, God, it must have been so much fun. Sitting there and going, oh, let's design this system. I mean, I love that kind of inventing special widgets to do this. That looks like it would have been such a laugh and so much kind of enjoyment to actually do that on that massive scale. I mean, obviously, they're the elephant in the room when it comes to sort of the power that they have. But I also find it really encouraging that in what is essentially quite a niche, or we think is quite a niche industry, that sort of level of industry can be supported, which I think is possibly good. I mean, is that a positive? It feels like it probably.
Yeah, well, what I loved seeing in that is that warehouse full of all that kit just says to me how accessible music technology equipment is these days. Compared to, you go back to the 70s, 80s, it was really expensive. It was quite hard to get stuff like this, and all our desktop synths and that. We are really, really spoiled. And it's wonderful seeing that, because it just makes me think about all the creators out there still having a go, still moving forward and buying stuff and being creative and that kind of thing. That's what I love to see in that video, actually.
Yeah, absolutely, and I can thoroughly agree with that, and that feels like a good point. I think what I'll do is I'll just drop a little message from our friends over at iZotope at this point, because well, why not?
iZotope Producers Club is a one-of-a-kind membership for producers ready to take their tracks to the next level. Once you join, you'll gain access to powerhouse iZotope plugins and a curated selection of tools from our partners, such as Melodyne from Celemony. Plus, as long as you're a member, you'll get every future update to the iZotope plugins in your membership for no extra cost. We'll also regularly serve you new curated content like exclusive inspiration-sparking sample packs and preset packs, and industry-leading training ranging from our own tutorials to vocal production lessons from the world-renowned Berklee Online, taught by Grammy-winning producer and engineer Prince Charles Alexander. With new content being added every month full of valuable production techniques, tips and tricks, and solutions to common production problems, becoming a member is an investment in your career that grows as you and your career do. For more information on iZotope Producers Club, head to iZotope.com.
And of course, we do thank them for their continued support of the show. And in fact, if you head over to iZotope.com/Sonictalk, there's a special landing page there with instructions on how to save 10% off all your purchases, apart from subscriptions and hardware. And that often applies to flash sales, like you can see at the top. Reverb starting at $19. You could probably get another $190 off that. Use the code Sonic10. Once again, we thank them very much for their support. Very much appreciated. Right, I thought I might go a little bit more, a bit lighter, perhaps, rather than get straight into the chip shortages. Just because feels like it's easy to get down that rabbit hole. So I'm going to go in with the brand new instrument concept from Yamaha. What do you think? I don't know quite what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. This looks like a health and safety nightmare. What happens if you pump it up too much? Did it explode? This is a kind of collab. I think they basically they're getting their kind of engineers from different departments, because remember, Yamaha is a massive there we go. Here's the musical bit. Yeah, kind of. It's like they obviously have a bit of a brains trust, and they try and get different departments to kind of come up with ideas and do that sort of thing. I have to say, this was a bit, but this one, I think this one is the one that they should make. This is a really interesting. These are called what are they called? Rhythm bots. Check this out. This is much more. So these little things, they look great. So whistling, it links up with your app, and then there are these little bots with, I guess, solenoids in them. Gets the tempo.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here we go. This is the one I want. Coming up now. That one. I want that one. Not that one. I mean, obviously, they put a lot more effort into the R&D, and because the last one looked like it was just a virtualization, so it's not quite. So I just thought it was, I know, Robin, we all were kind of going, is it the CS80? And in fact, Wago put a great comment in. It's like, I want my CS80, but that didn't happen, unfortunately. But yeah.
Every time Yamaha R&D poke their head up above the parapet, it's like, but no. No, we're going to play with our environment. We are going to jam along with our living rooms, which is nice. I mean, I'm sure Alexa will get involved in that, and then it will be chaos, which is good. We like a bit of that.
I wonder if it's possible to have two Alexas talking to each other and getting them to respond, so you can leave them to have an argument. That might be an interesting experiment, or make some music. I don't know, but yeah, I like this one. I don't know, Matt. I saw you basically, almost collapsed on the floor with this.
Well,
It's not
I
really.
mean, yeah, it kind of reminds me. You ever see that
Sorry.
episode, The Simpsons, where Homer Simpson gets to design the car of his dreams, and they just let him go for it, and he designs this car, and it's got pizza holder on it and a propeller and all this kind of stuff, and it's just ridiculous.
Bubble domes.
Kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Nick, can you put a link to that second video in the chat? Was that Yamaha? Who was that?
I may be able to. Yeah, that was Yamaha too. Let me see.
That was
Where's
Yamaha
that?
too. Now that's interesting. That I really like. That is kind of a bit eerie as well, isn't it? I mean, imagine sitting in your room and just whistling away, and then all these kind of objects around you start going in time. And they all reminded me of that film, Batteries Not Included. You know, with the little flying spaceships, that kind of thing. I like that. That's like futuristic to me. That thing with the propeller and the kind of suction thing. No, I don't know what that is.
If that was a Kickstarter, I definitely would support the rhythm part. I don't know.
Definitely.
What about you, Paulie?
I like the little symbol as well. Yeah,
there's something
really
about
cool.
it.
Just going ding.
I've been making a great alarm clock. What a nice way to wake up. You know, with a little sort of.
Definitely.
It reminds me a little bit of. Do you remember? What was it? Bagpuss, where they had the kind of toys. They would all sort of like make these little musical things, and you know, you can imagine it'd be like being woken up by maybe some freaky puppets.
What happens if they go sentient and rogue? That's the question.
I don't know. There'll
be too much cowbell.
Your family jewels caught in a piece of symbol.
No, nothing. I like to think that mine wouldn't fit quite in there. Other parts of me probably would, but they're very small. I'm not trying to make it. Anyway, let's move on. I just thought this was a bit of fun, but I suppose the thing is, it's very similar, isn't it? I know Google do similar things, and YouTube used to. Some of the sort of big tech corporations used to do these things where you get these kind of blue sky projects, the way you can have a side project, so your day job, which might be the tedium of designing or tinkering with AI algorithms, and then one of your little side projects might be something really good fun. And you know, we often see it at Google Labs, isn't it? So I think it's a great idea. I just wish it was. I suppose it's designed not to be in the core kind of slot of what these various departments do, so we shouldn't expect too much of it. But
I wonder if these. I just wonder if these things are them kind of. They do these things, put them out there on the internet, and then read the comments and watch the responses before hitting any buttons. It's like, okay, let's just put stuff out there. Let's see what people's reactions are, because we actually might be surprised that people want this kind of trumpet on wheels with a suction pump on it. That might happen. I don't think it has, but yeah, I wonder if their users essentially use guinea pigs to get a response, and you can do that on social media, can't you? You can put anything out there and check out what the response is, and then sort of find your path or whatever it is you're going to put out there, and that kind of thing.
Do you think it's their version of Kickstarter, but without actually maybe
Guess so. Maybe.
Well, we could be contributing to either one of those projects becoming a thing. Imagine.
We're part of the algorithm, Nick.
Part of the algorithm. I'm not sure how I feel about that. That feels a little bit, I don't know whether I want to be that. But anyway, it was a bit of fun. Not an awful lot to do with music. Maybe we should get onto something that's actually got something to do with some synths, because I'm feeling like maybe we're losing our audience. Let's see what this one. Yeah, this is cool. This is the new Make Noise XPO, which is a stereo oscillator. That's probably a bit loud. And has stereo PWM. I mean, what's not to like? Stereo PWM, stereo prismatic, stereo PWM, stereo fold, timbal shifting, and 5 mono outputs. This is going to be available in September, I think. I think it's about $350-ish. Oh, I don't know. I think there's some other demos there with some great stereo PWM. I'm going to come to you first, Robin, because you are also modular. Have you been told you're getting one of these to review? Have you tried any other?
Good Lord, no! Make Noise don't give anything away. No, not as far as I'm aware. Although, of course, always happy to. I don't know. The XPO is a slightly weird one. I mean, there's a lot of complex oscillators around at the moment. It all seems to be the thing to jam oscillators into each other is what needs to be done, and the XPO is kind of that, but it wants to operate in its own place. I mean, what I thought was really remarkable about the video was all of the staff at the end giving their own little patches. And that was brilliant because so often you get a single demo from a single person on a module, and it only ever gives you one or two flavors. Whereas at the end, there was such a diverse range of stuff that I was actually quite liking it by the end, starting off not being very much into FMing and audio rating stuff, particularly. By the end of it, I thought, well, this is a magnificent thing. But it's very much, it exists within its own paradigm. So you need a stereo system. You need a stereo Eurorack. It operates beautifully within their own modules. And I kind of think if it sat there next to my crappy DIY modules and my other bits of pieces, it's not really my system wouldn't benefit from it because I don't have that kind of stereo routing. I don't have enough modules to do it because you need two of everything or you need stereo modules. So it's kind of very, very niche for its own, hipster make noise crowd, I think. And for that, it's awesome and it will fit into that beautifully. But I think for the rest of us, it might just pass us by. And I think there are other perhaps more interesting complex oscillators that just do the regular mono thing that might that would fit us better if that's what you're into.
I suppose so. And Make Noise, I mean, I know that there's a hipster vibe to it, but they're one of the biggest selling module makers, I believe, if you talk to any of the sort of major retailers. They really sell a lot of stuff. I mean, I really like the O-Coast, and I liked, was it Strega? That's the one, or I think that's what the one they did with Alessandro.
It's beautiful stuff. Beautiful equipment, gear. Everything about it is just lovely. There's nothing not to like. It's just the matter of this fits into a stereo system, and that's not that common yet in Eurorack, I don't think.
Paulie, I don't know if you've got any modular or whether you've been. Is there a catalyst that would make you jump?
I got out of the. Sorry, am I clipping or is that just my
you're all right.
headphones? That's okay. I got out of the game at 6U 104 HP.
Well done. Good job.
I filled that case up and I got out. So I was counting up. I was doing, that meme of the woman with all the equations going across her face. I was doing that to think, do I have enough modules in order to give this a stereo path? And I think I probably would just about, but I'd need to put a wasp filter on one output and the DUP for extreme filter on the other output and try and match them. So I have just enough modules to take advantage of this. But that said, I'm quite happy with my rack. My main oscillator is an older one, a Pittsburgh DNA Symbiotic Waves. Do you remember that module at all? It had it was basically dual digital VCOs that you could do various things like sync, ring modulate, stuff like that. So I've got some of that. I've got some DUP for VCOs, so I'm quite happy. I'm out.
You're out. It's like a game of poker, and you've left the top table, and you're happy with it, and now you can actually afford to decorate your kid's bedroom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I run my Amiga through mine. Remember?
Okay.
I run 2 stereo channels of Amiga through it, so I can use some 8-bit samples as oscillators and modulators as well and stuff. So that's quite fun.
Matt, have you got any Make Noise stuff? I can't.
Hang on, Paulie. I salute you getting out in time. Well done. Because this is just an excuse to just. I don't know. I'm just showing off, aren't I? I don't know what's wrong with me these days. I should just sell it all and just and show everyone that I can make music without it. I've actually got a guitar. I've got a ukulele and guitar down here. I could just go back to that, I think.
Nice.
I was actually looking at what Make Noise I've got. I've got a couple of mats. Everyone needs a mat, and maybe that's where I got my name from. Who knows? Hey. And a couple of Optimixes, which are like low pass gates. Have got this lovely, lovely sound to them. I used to have Rene, and I think that's it for Make Noise. But I do love Maths. I think they got that one spot on. It's still really good. This one, the thing I like about this, 11 discrete outputs. So you can get all the different waveforms at once. You can get 11 of them out into your system.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I tend to do when I'm making music, I don't tend to use pitch too much. It's usually one note, and then I'm opening and closing filters and VCAs to make rhythms, and then banging kick drum. That's it, basically. So it's really important for me that any VCOs I'm using stay in tune. Now, if you can extrapolate 11 outputs from one VCO, and you know that they're all going to be in tune with each other, and you've got all that different timbre, and I can run them through the different VCAs and VCFs, that's brilliant for me. So forgetting it's stereo and thinking about just the capacity of getting 11 discrete outputs, I think is really cool. And they're all going to be tuned. This to me almost feels like I feel like getting rid of a load of oscillators, putting that in there, and using that. Another little tip: if you want that kind of pseudo stereo in your Euro rack, I did this in a video of mine once. Is a really simple thing to do: is take your oscillator, put it through something like a 2 HP Erica Synths reverb. So mono in, stereo out. So what it does effectively gives you a stereo output, which it's not true stereo, of course. You can put the reverb down to completely dry, 0%, and then you've got a stereo output. I tend to do that a lot. And then once it's stereo like that, I run that through stereo filters, or through effects or whatever you want for it. So I tend to do that a lot with bass. I tend to put my bass a lot in stereo. Everyone says don't do that. I do it. I love the sound of stereo bass sort of moving around. And then I'll choose a few other mono ones which are right in the middle, and that works fine for me. That works really fine for me. But I think there is something to be said for having a true bespoke, true stereo oscillator, because you are going to get that relative movement between the left and right outputs. And on this one, you've got 6 corresponding left and right outputs. 3 pairs of 2, so 6, yeah. So you're going to get that true stereo. So I'm quite interested in this one, I have to say, because I think I can see it replacing a number of my oscillators in here. But
interesting.
That's just for me.
Mike Jaws says, see, I'm lost. I just ripped the modular section from my Sweetwater catalogue and threw it away. Now that's the way to do it. I mean, there's no escape though. It'll still come to you. You know, you'll still get to see it. Definitely. Did I come to everybody? Sorry, I've sort of lost track. You had a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun with modular grid when I was planning my system, just like dragging things in. Wild, man.
Yeah, well, that you get the endorphins of, because isn't there a buy button on that where you could just kind of go, okay, I can buy all of these modules from somewhere. That would be
not
dangerous.
when I was using it, thank goodness.
Good, thank God.
It gives you the price though. That's the worst thing. You see the price at the bottom, and it's just
right.
It's if you look at my browsing history, you'll just see it's pretty much 95% modular grid, and then like emails. And a bit of Facebook. That's basically my internet history.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Fair enough. Okay. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, anyway, I just thought that was worth throwing in there. I can't even remember what the topic was now. God, there's too many things going on here. There's quite a lot of stuff going past in the chat. I'm not entirely sure if it's all working. I've got some questions lined up, but I did want to get to this question, this one, because I think this throws up some interesting points as well. So let's run this one. This is the news that the Bastl Thyme has been discontinued due to chip shortages. Here's a few examples of it. It's a very interesting device, actually. It's a sort of digital tape with all kind of modulation and sequencing kind of concepts. But according to a story on Synthotopia, it's basically chip shortage. I mean, it was discontinued anyway. It had been previously discontinued, and then I think there's another instance where the chip shortages just kind of created another shortage, and after a while it's just like, you know what, because I mean manufacturers can't really just redesign the whole thing every time you can't get a component. There's some if you're interested, you should check that link out. There's some great comments from a commenter called Frodo on there, who sort of, because people going, what chip shortage, I don't really understand what's happening, and he kind of outlines it. The AKM fire, which got rid of a lot of A to D and D to A stuff, which isn't just for audio, that can be for voltages and other signals. COVID obviously has restricted a number of the factories. There's also when you come down to it, a small number of fabrication plants make these chips. So as soon as demand is increased, like Texas Instruments or whatever, suddenly it just kind of goes out of the water and you can't get them. And you can't run your production line based on, I might be able to source 50 of these on eBay at 5 times the price and make a few more. Yeah. There's a number of things about this. I mean, first of all, I wanted to see what people thought about that. But I also thought, well, does this mean perhaps we're going to see a new era where people are going to be picking up instruments that they don't have to have chips to be able to play? Are we going to see a resurgence of guitar or, bongos or whatever? I don't know. I'll come to you first, Paulie.
Because I had a bit of an idea, didn't I? I was thinking you could get some kind of low string instrument, maybe just with one string on it to keep it simple. And you could have a couple of foot pedals, one which did like a little kick drum, and then another pedal which kind of, I don't know, it was like a hurdy-gurdy kind of thing. So you span it, low drone notes, one pedal for a kick drum and one pedal to kind of gate like a felt thing on the hurdy-gurdy. So it where the rosin hits the string, yeah. That's it. So you could stop it, so you could get like a burr, and then get your little kick going, and you could have like some serious bass hurdy-gurdy techno jams. That's just where my mind goes. You know what? That's not too unreasonable, because the reason I say this is when I was in Spain, we went to this festival. I forget which one it was. I think it was St. John, and they have a big bonfire, and it's all quite feral, and there are people throwing fireworks around on the beach in crowds of people, and all these kids running around till 2:00 in the morning with bangers, at 12-year-old, whatever. It looked great. But the music that was accompanying when they lit the fire was this sort of it was like techno folk, so sort of bazookies and hurdy-gurdies, and it really worked for that sort of thing. So I think you could be onto something there. I don't know, Robin. I don't know if you're you play a stringed instrument as well, don't you? But do you think that we're going to see a change?
Possibly. I mean, acoustic sequencing, could that become a thing where you're having to poke holes in bits of card and pegs are revolving around and then triggering bits and pieces? Getting very electroacoustic, I guess, without the electro bit. So just acoustic. What does that look like? Is it just somebody playing guitar and drums? I mean, is that really where we're
an actual band?
An actual band. I mean, I found it quite interesting that the car situation seems to drive a lot of this, where there's a pun anyway, that when new cars are now cheaper than secondhand cars because they can't make them, so secondhand cars are becoming more desirable, and so go up in price because they actually have functional stuff that you can repair, whereas there are no chips to make new cars, and they're starting to have to make analog dials again and things like that within the dashboard, which is great. In some ways this pushes us towards something
steampunk.
That feels somehow less very steampunky, very integrated, very human and emotional and tactile and all those sorts of nice things, because we're pushing the digital stuff out of the way because we can't make anything with it. So it's interesting. Is this a step towards all the power going off, I think? And ultimately in our future we do have to return to our acoustic
So
roots.
we're heading, no, wait a minute, we're heading towards what you've described really is Mad Max, or those kind of dystopian sort of what was the thing? It's like Blade Runner 2049, when you've got all the people who've got all the chips and then everybody else who's kind of like those rooms full of small children removing gold from circuit boards to try and kind of I don't know, that is a bit dystopian. I don't know, Matt, what do you think? I mean, because I think it could be a very real thing. We could end up in a situation where we are actually beginning to see people taking up things that they know that they can play and they know that they can fix and they know that they can continue to use, perhaps.
Yeah, there might be that, but someone did mention just in the live stream chat is going back to plugins. I mean, They don't break. you know, they're there unless your OS doesn't work. So it might be that. I think what I'm more interested in is what are the lessons that the manufacturers have learned from this? Have they sat around and gone, okay, we can't have this happen again, or we don't know how long this is going to go on for. What are we going to do? Are we going to redesign our processes? Are we going to stop relying on these particular chips? Are we going to start building chips in-house? And if we do that, how are we going to include that in the price of the products we sell? Are we going to look at completely different mechanisms? Are we going to look at completely different product lines? You know, I'm really interested to know what the conversations that these companies are having behind closed doors, if you like, about what they're going to do. Because I don't know when this chip shortage is going to end. It hasn't ended. There are chips coming through. It's better, but it hasn't ended. And I guess we're kind of also learning this same problem. I don't want to go into this too much, but as you know, fuel prices are skyrocketing and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we're all learning a lesson here about dependency on materials that are not easily accessible or not from this country or not built by us. And I think we all need to take a long, hard look at ourselves, don't you?
Well, you're probably right.
Ourselves out.
You're right. It's very interesting. I mean, I think the thing about chips is quickly, because I do have to get a couple of things in. The thing about chips is it's a very non-trivial thing to make. You do need very specific manufacturing sort of conditions for this if you're going to make these sort of tiny nanometer sort of things like we're seeing. So I think the US government just bankrolled IBM or the chip industry like billions to start making chips to open fabrication plants on sort of US soil. So that's whether they did the right thing and bankrolled the right company, who knows? But that's that. So there is something going on there. But I wonder if we're going to enter a situation where chips get bigger because they're easier to make in your shed rather than in a special kind of clean room. So we'll end up with these sort of massive sandwich chips that anybody can make, but the calculator would be the size of your VCR. I don't know.
Nice.
Anyway, something to think about. And while we think about that, we'll have a little mention from our friends over at Baby Audio. Of course, they make creative effects plugins. Speaking of plugins, very apt. Designed to add colour and depth to your mixes, Baby Audio won Plugin of the Year 2021 in Future Music and Computer Music magazine. Nominated for the SOS Awards 2 years in a row. Maybe try Smooth Operator, a resonance suppression, equalization and compression plugin hybrid that automatically eliminates resonances and muddiness. Very useful. Allows you to shape your track's tonal response while the plugin automatically eliminates resonances in the background. In fact, you can save 15% off when checking out with the code ST15 at babyaudio.com. That's right, if you use the code ST15, you can save 15% on plugins over at babyaudio.com, which may well tie in with Matt's suggestion we all just use plugins. But then we need the machines to run them on, which does require chips. All the chips should make computers, and maybe that's that. I don't know. It seems. So I think I'm sorry. I've been rushing things on along a little bit because I'm conscious that we do have some questions. If I'm going to ask people to actually answer questions, then I should probably actually do them. So let's start off with. I've got a question from. Comes from Samuel Madden via Twitter. This is the Sonicstate QQ, so if you want to do that via Twitter, Sam the Bongo Man. Do you think we'll see any advanced samplers, example, late 90s, early noughties, rack samplers, octotrack, S1000, S5000 innovation, or do you think we've maxed out what people can handle? And I think this is kind of an interesting question, actually. I don't know, Paulie, I'll come to you first, because I know you're big on some of that older hardware, and, it may well be right up your street.
I mean, I was born in 1982, so growing up, these rack samplers were everywhere in studios. You'd see a studio on a TV, you see a studio in a film, or when I actually got to university, everything was big rack samplers. I wonder if software has replaced the utility part of the rack sampler, if you understand me, not the sound, because we all have our Kurzweil and Insonic and Emu racks and stuff. I wonder if software samplers have replaced the utility kind of, getting your bread and butter sounds part of sampling. And I wonder if we're not going to see any more rack samplers, because the creative stuff is now released kind of in desktop format, isn't it? In terms of desktop samplers, like Thomann does a bunch of really, really odd stuff with samples. Like I've got a Thomann unit where you can change start point, end point, put different effects on, filter FM, all sorts of stuff. You've got the octotrack as well, haven't you, from Electron, which is very advanced. So I wonder if we'll ever see rack samplers again, because people used to buy them for the utility of them. They had lots of RAM in. They had maybe like zip drives or SCSI drives. And that kind of part of it has kind of been replaced by software, sadly, because I still have rack samplers that I use and love.
I suppose the thing is, I mean, I think if you think about it also, samplers have A to Ds and D to As in them, which is what most of, if you've got any computer in it whatsoever, you've probably got that going on in your life. I don't know, do you miss that? Do you think also, Robin, that maybe it's become, what we can do with samples with the modern technology is kind of almost too much for a sample UI to handle if it's in hardware?
Yeah, I think sampling has changed again, because over the last decade we've sampled everything. Everything has been sampled within an inch of its existence, and you can buy any library for any sound you could possibly imagine and dump it into your computer and off you go. And I think what I've seen happen more recently is everyone's out doing their own sampling now. So having a rack sampler is actually of no use to you, because you want to be outside sampling that bee that's pollinating that flower over there, or that stream, or that car going past, with a handheld type recorder or something of that nature. So people's phones perhaps have turned into the sampler in their pocket, which they can then bring back, dump it into Contact or whatever sampler they want to use in their software, and use it that way. So I think, as Paulie says about the utility of a sampler, that doesn't really exist anymore. You used to edit on those tiny little screens, and that was a good workflow. But the workflow in a DAW is so much superior, really, in most respects. The only thing that's missing is the grabbing of that sample in the first place. So rather than having another Bosendorfer piano, you can go out and sample your Nan's piano, and use and have some character and individuality in what you're doing. I think that's where sampling is going these days.
Yeah, good point. And also, obviously, the amount of sample space in your computer is with disk streaming is kind of we don't have 2 megs or 2 whatever. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with both of those points. Some really, really good points there. Particularly with Paulie talking about samplers now that become like your octotracks or the Akai Force, where they're not just standalone units. They're now empowered to be able to do performance and sequencing, and they've essentially got a sequencer and a DAW inside of it. And then you've got, to go back to modular, you've got the Bitbox Micro. This tiny little thing is so powerful. It's sampling into it, the effects, the filtering, the pitching, and then it's got the playback, just like in Ableton with the clip launcher and everything in time. So we've kind of gone there. Then I'm also thinking about new hardware samplers and things. And what was that white hardware granular sampler stroke synthesizer that came out? It's really, really cool. Forgetting the name of it, but that was the kind of first hardware granular sampler stroke synthesizer, if you like. I call it more of a sampler because it really relied on samples and sampling into it in order to produce the audio. And before that, I wasn't aware of any hardware one. That's it. What's that called, Paulie?
Is it called the GRM or GRH? Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Tasty Pick. I can't remember who made it now.
Tasty Chips GR1.
Tasty
Thank
Chip.
you.
Well done. Thank you very much.
And I guess that, to answer your question, I think that for me has been like, oh, that's really quite interesting. I'd not seen that really with hardware before. I could be wrong. But then again, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Kyma systems. Back in the day, they were doing amazing audio processing, real-time audio processing with samples that I haven't seen replicated anywhere. Kyma, Kyma. It allowed you to get like a sample of a dog barking and someone singing, and you could you could cross between one to the other, and I don't mean an audio crossfade. Actually,
Yeah, it
it
was a
would
FFT
morph.
crossfade, wasn't it? Yeah.
FFT crossfading. So I'd like to see more of that abilities in hardware, in particularly inside of these things. Imagine doing that kind of thing, and the GR1 in this while you're playing live, while you've got the sequencing and that going on. So bit of a long answer there, but that's where I'd perhaps like to see that go.
Yeah.
Here's a little factoid.
Yep.
Did you know that the Emax SE, not even the Emax 2, the Emax SE from like 1986 or something, can do that kind of FFT combination of two samples? It just takes forever to render, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cool thing about Timer, it was all in real time.
Real time, yeah.
It's cool.
I agree. I mean, I think there's some of that stuff in what's the one that's inside the Osmos, or the engine that's inside the Osmos? I can't remember what that is. It's the probably can't quite figure that out. Paulie seems to have dropped. Camera's dropped out, but that's all right. We'll work on it. Okay, back again. Phew. Right. Well, let's try another question then. Let's see where we're going to. Okay. I'm going to go for this because it sort of ties in with one of the questions that one of the topics I was going to run, because we heard that Distrokid has just added video distribution to their whole thing. If for those who don't know, companies like Distrokid, you send them the track and they can do all of their stuff. They're now adding video to that, so you can distribute your video. And this is a question from Robarth. Is Distrokid a good choice for a mature home musician as myself, or they're better ones for a first release? I suppose that would go to. I'll go to Matt, because Matt, you do quite a lot of that sort of thing yourself.
I can answer this one, mate. Good question. I spent last year. I released one track every month last year, and I went through all the distribution sites. And I chose one called Root Note. The reason I went to Root Note is because they charge you $0. You don't pay any yearly fee. You don't even pay to put your music out there, and it puts it out on Apple Music, Spotify, and everything. You just give them a slightly bigger percentage of the royalties. Now, for an artist starting out, that percentage of the royalties is nothing. So don't worry about that. But it gets your music out there. And if you get signed to a big label, you can take your music from Root Note and you can then put it through their distribution platform and then get on a better rate anyway. So I would go to Root Note. Now, they're really good, really, really quick. Upload your artwork, goes out to all the stores. I use them, no problem at all. When it comes to the video, we was going to talk about Distrokid.
Which is part
videos out there. This really sickens me. I just, this whole business, it's really got to me, actually, releasing a song a month, and the whole kind of streaming thing and paying to put music out there and paying now to put your video out there. It doesn't sit well with me. In fact, I've made a decision. I'm pulling all of my music off all the streaming sites. I'm only going to make everything available via Bandcamp from now on. And that includes some of the videos as well. I'm going to go that route. I think as a starting out musician, it can be good to get onto the streaming sites, but really it's nothing more than a promotion tool, and you don't make any money from it. And you could put your money on Bandcamp and you could have subscribers. I have a subscription on there, and I make far more money on there than I do through any of the streaming sites. And that includes music that I've got on some Netflix programs that are streaming, and I'm getting a lot of streams from it, and I'm not making nearly anywhere as much money as I'm making from my monthly Bandcamp subscribers. So Bandcamp are really, really cool. They waive fees as well at different times through the year. So I hope that helps you. Root Note, go check it out.
Yeah, that's a good good tip. I know, Robin, do you get the chance to release much stuff? I mean, what would you suggest?
I do from time to time. I discovered DistroKid at sort of the right time, where I was paying yearly amounts of money to TuneCore to keep really old stuff online, which just seemed kind of ridiculous. But then there were those 3 people who would listen to it every year. I'd get my Spotify view things back, and there's those 3 people who love those old albums from 15 years ago. So it's like, sod it, I will move everything to DistroKid, pay 1 fee, and it's all up there. So that I hadn't heard about this root note one. That sounds really good. But Distrokid, as opposed to TuneCore, really sorted me out in terms of back catalogue. I think that works really well. I think there's something inherently awesome about the feeling of having your music out there where everybody else has it. I think that's, as a new artist, as a home music maker, there's something very exciting about that, because you dream about releasing, you dream about being signed, you dream about being in a record shop, all of those things, and having your music being able to be streamed on Spotify or found or discovered that way has a huge element of joy attached to it. Now, I know that it's nonsense. We all know that it's nonsense. We all know we're not going to own it, make any money, but there's still that element of feeling that you are amongst the greats. You are amongst music. People can find Rolling Stones and then they can find you, and there's something to be said for that. However, I absolutely agree with the Bandcamp thing. That is hands down the best. I don't know, the best solution, the best place where it all comes together. Once you've got over the starry-eyedness of being on Amazon, then go to Bandcamp, and that's definitely the best place for you. But it's not going to be any easier, but it feels really great to be selling stuff through Bandcamp.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and they support other stuff. I mean, you could do it via Patreon. There are other kind of similar things as well where you could do that. I don't know, Paulie, what do you do? I mean, or what have you done?
I'm going to be very honest here and say that the business side of music absolutely terrifies me. I find it quite difficult to navigate. I find it I don't know. It's something that's outside of the nice, lovely little self-sustaining feelings of self-worth I get from making music for me, as an internal mindfulness creative process. So to put things out there, and especially to get into all the stories of stick with me kid and or make you famous or something like that, I'm very, very wary of basically doing anything with anyone in terms of the industry. But it would seem that I'm going to have to start doing this stuff now, because when we put out the Arcade Dreams documentary, which should be at some point in the probably late this year, early next year, we're going to do a soundtrack CD, a CD of the soundtrack with all my original compositions for the documentary on. And at that point, I'll have to kind of, release and look at these options and things like that, and then look into promotion and stuff. But I find it very, very intimidating outside of the lovely internal mindfulness. But does that make any sense?
No, it absolutely does. And I think that's the one thing. I mean, we should also point out that Bandcamp did get bought by Epic, actually. Was it early this year or late last year? So far, things haven't changed. They've still been doing the kind of the occasional Friday waiving artist fees so that people can hit their release points. It seems to be quite benevolent. And it feels like, I mean, I put some stuff out on Bandcamp, and I did it because it was gentle and it was easy, and I didn't have to kind of do big promo. I mean, I'm fortunate in that we've got the Sonicstate platform, so I can say, I put a couple of tunes out, and it makes me feel good when people go, I like this. I mean, it wouldn't make me feel good if everybody said, it's awful, I hate it. I mean, why would you want to do that? Who wants to expose themselves to that mass level of opinion based on, but yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from with that, Paulie. It's not
when Sing Song Harmonics Volume 2 coming out, Nick.
Yeah, that's a good question. Great idea for title for it. I think I might do that. That's going to be the next. Maybe that'll be the next Friday Fun volume. I'll call it Sing Song Harmonics, and we'll do that. But I mean, yes, I mean, I'm currently thinking, along these lines, because obviously, Sonic is a business and we have to do our things. Yeah. And that's one of the things I'm trying to think about, how can we direct some of the more creative things towards Patreon and not you. I mean, YouTube's great and it's providing the transport for all of this stuff. But, ultimately, they don't care about us. I mean, if they change policy, things could change. Whereas if we've got if you can control and curate your own, kind of fan base, then that's the best way to be. In many ways, because then you're in.
Maybe we should all do a charity album or something. Get all the Sonicstate stable people in. A couple of people could like collab on each track and then just bung it out.
Well, we did. May I draw you to Sonic 001, which was the album that
Oh,
was
yes, I
released
remember that.
last year, which was it's really good quality stuff on there. Some great stuff on there. If you're still, that's on Bandcamp. So yeah, good question though. Thank you very much to. Sorry, who was it who answered that? Rocky. No, that's not the one. That's the problem with these thirds. They just go past, and then I throw it up again. It's like, oh no, that's not it anymore. It's gone. But thanks for the question. I think we're probably. I need to figure out the timings of how this works because there's so many more questions. I will try and store some of those for later, but please do keep them coming. And if you didn't get it in, maybe just chuck it on Twitter so that it'll be there for next week if you feel strongly and you want it to be answered. Matt, what's next for you? I guess we're sort of on to goodbyes. Where are you going next? Have you got any gigs coming up? What's happening in your world? What have you got to plug?
No live gigs at the minute. I'm just finishing off an album. As you know, last year I released a track a month, and now I'm going to do a big bang sort of album going out kind of thing, or it might be 2 EPs. I'm not sure. That and also designing my new studio, which I'm looking forward to getting set up, which is going to be a lot better set up to allow me to do more live streaming, more instantaneous. So I'm really going to be picking up the live streaming and doing more videos and that kind of thing. So planning for that. I'm also planning on how to, because this is going to go into a desk. I'm actually designing a mixing desk to have these incorporated in it at a kind of angle. So I'm playing around with some ideas and working with some people on coming up on how to have it best kind of set out. So I'm sat down, I've got it available, and might have some extra sort of the little what they call system 500s or whatever, series 500 compressors and things like that. Might be getting some of that. So just looking at a whole new setup really for the live streaming and just writing and recording, doing a lot of stuff like that behind the scenes, just being really creative.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Robin, what's next for you? What reviews have you got in the pipeline? What have you got coming up?
Oh, well, I mean, endless reviews, I suspect. But on the live music theme, there's Electronic Music Open Mic Night in Norwich tomorrow that I'm hoping to drag this Know That system along to. I'll make something up at like tea time and then turn up at 7:30 and go, here we go. 15 minutes.
Is that the first time? Is that the first time you've
chaos.
done it?
No. I do it sporadically. And I try to do it every month, but it ends up being once in a while. So I've dedicated myself to doing it tomorrow at some point. So that'll be exciting. And also I'm trying to come up with a Norwich synth festival, a Synth Fest Norwich, or a Molten Modular Synth Meet.
Yeah.
Which is at the moment working on trying to get something together for October, November, later in the year, which is exciting. And I'm very enthused about the idea of a synth fest in the east of England.
Yeah, actually, that's worth mentioning because Distrokid Modular Meet Leeds is on,
Yes.
I think, weekend after next. Is that right? I don't know what the dates are. I think they're 13th and 14th of August. Do check that out. I think we put a post up about it on Sonic, but that I was contemplating going, but it's just such a long trip from here. But if you're that side of the country, and that's going to be good. That's going to be 2 days of synth stuff. And I think it's really, I applaud you for doing that, because I thought about going to doing open synth nights. There used to be one in Frome, not far from me. I think COVID kind of put paid to it. Hopefully it might start up again, and I might consider doing that and just think, right, I will make a small thing and just force myself to do it, even though I think every bone in my body is going, I don't want to, it's too humiliating, everybody will judge me, all of that stuff. But I think it's really, it's a good muscle to exercise when and if you can, for sure, performance of any kind. So good on you,
Absolutely,
Robin.
yeah. I mean, it's terrifying, as you say, and you can't see, you can't hear, you're a little bit drunk. It's the perfect place to showcase your talent.
Paulie, what about you? What's next for you? I know you're finishing up some videos for your new YouTube channel, which is... Excellent.
Yeah.
I knew I'd get that in there one time at least.
You could be a radio DJ with jingles that high quality.
You do the jingles and I'll do the... Yeah, okay. I'll press the button.
Yeah, brilliant. So obviously I'm going to finish that off this week, hopefully. But yeah, it's I believe we've had some good news with Arcade Dreams. So we've got like our financial future is looking great. So I'm going to continue working on that.
That's the soundtrack
And,
you're doing on the history of arcade games, I should add, because if people,
yes,
that's
so
really
that's
good.
going to be interesting. 100 years worth of genres of music, which will be fun. So I'm just going to keep plugging away, and of course, obviously, I'm happy to join in Sonictalk, but I might need a couple of weeks off in about a month's time because my wife is giving birth. So I think you'll let me off for a couple of weeks.
Absolutely, yeah. No, of course. Let's have to get some of our other guests to step up as well. I know they've had a great summer, and that's all. Well, they're all working basically. That's part of the problem. Tom said he loved your jingle, by the way. Atomic Tom, so love the jingle. So
lovely.
Nice to see. Okay, well, I think I think I said goodbye to everybody. We should probably knock things out next week. If all goes to plan, we will be coming from Metropolis in London at Roland's HQ, and then we'll go on to the opening of their new store in Denmark Street, which will be next Wednesday. I'm hoping, because there's no reason why I couldn't do this from their place. So we'll see if we can do that. Anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure having you. We'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye now.